I think I would hand over formally to Vic and let him walk us through this financial journey of a dentist.
I love it. Thanks for the intro, my friend. Can you hear me loud and clear okay of us?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Fantastic. Thank you so much again for the invitation to speak with you guys today. Shout out to so many of our fellow platform speakers today and tomorrow. And it's an honor to speak again. It's funny, Abaz and I were hanging out back on February 21st, 22nd of 2020 in this year when we were doing a side event together there in Mississauga, and how the world changed basically, 1 week later now as we sit here now live on Zoom. So shout out again to you for putting together such a tremendous learning opportunity for everybody that's tuned in and is going to have the opportunity to watch this recording as we go forward. So with that, again, I want to walk you guys through. It is right now 1:20, and I'm going to go super fast today. There's a lot of ground I want to cover, and Abaz and I have joked about I'm going to need about 8 hours, I think, on a full day to kind of teach everything we want to talk about from the financial side. But we're going to give you a glimpse today.
We will create that 8 hours.
We will do it. You're persistent, my brother. So today I'm gonna take you through in the next 40 minutes. We'll leave about 5 to 7 minutes for some Q&A. So as we go along, please feel free to put your questions right into the chat box, and then Abaz and I can cover those at the end. And I am going to take you through a couple of case study examples today on what we see. As Abaz said, we currently look after right now 4,157 dentists across Canada. And I've been through this now over 800 times. So again, I want to kind of give you good and bad. And the focus of it around is going to also be very focused around the disruption of dentistry and why we see the shift. Abaz is completely correct. Old software, new software is one aspect of, again, this massive disruption. Probably the biggest disruptor on the planet today, if you look at out of anybody literally living in this moment, is obviously this guy, Mr. Jeff Bezos. And it's amazing. I mean, since we've had the disruption of the entire planet with COVID-19, this guy and his entire team not only excelled and grew, but completely changed the face of how the planet now interacts and shops and does 100 other services. Yet Amazon, of course, has no ability to still in any way, shape, and form provide professional dental services. And that's going to be a tough challenge for him or anybody else to change. And therein lies this amazing, phenomenal life opportunity for every one of you as you build your career. In this agenda today, as I said, we're going to go hyper fast here. We're going to talk about the dental industry, tax, debt, getting a car, home versus practice, disability, investing. I'm going to case study you guys up on buying versus building a practice, business structures, a little bit more case study again. So we really give you some fundamental real life stories of things we've seen. And I'm going to touch on branding. Really, Abaz is going to take you really deep inside the branding and marketing. So make sure you definitely tune in to hear his talk. He's an expert in it. Global population right now, we're dealing with 7.8 billion people on the planet today. And right now, tooth decay is 3.9 billion of the planet and the number one out of 291 diseases on the global burden of diseases index. The need for dentistry is not slowing down. In fact, it's actually ramping up and it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And where you have the opportunity is not just on the restorative and the hygienist side, but we're dealing now with a huge, monumental shift in the cosmetic and the aesthetic side of dentistry. And this is where, again, we'll get into it in a few minutes over here, where your opportunities can lie when we case study these kind of practices. So in the dental industry today, imagine this. Sina had just actually referenced it just earlier this morning when he said, we've got 8 billion people on the planet and just under 40 million people here living in Canada. And yet of the 40, the exact number is 37,600,000 and change, 600,000 change. Canadian revenue for the dental industry, I'm just talking Canada, amongst 37 million people, is $15 billion. That is what the industry spend is when we talk about our first big number today in case study world. $15 billion is spent in little old Canada when you think about it. US revenue, US population, of course, 328 million people. Revenue on the dental industry, 10 times bigger, 10 times the population, $117 billion.
This is the amount the patients spend
This
on
is
dental
not,
care,
it's
right?
not just the patient spend, it would also be the equipment spend, the sundry spend, the rent, the advertising. So if you look at the entire conglomerate of the industry, it's $15 billion a year. Unbelievable, unbelievable spend. 32% of patients in Canada have no insurance. That is 1 in 3 people are literally uninsured in every capacity. 35% of the entire global population is edentulous and has no teeth of any kind. And this is, again, one of the numbers. As the world is, and the entire planet, including Canada, is aging, you're running into this beautiful situation and opportunity for all of you as upcoming professionals to plug in crowns, bridges, onlays, inlays, implant dentistry. There's just so much need. And again, where I really focus on is that this is a growing need. It's not slowing down. When we again look at some of the other top level numbers here, 74% of Canadians see a dentist at least once a year, so 3 out of 4. 22% of these Canadians don't go due to costs. So as we said, 32% don't have insurance. Well, 22% of those people aren't insured, of course, and therefore that becomes one of the major drivers for not going. There's a high barrier to entry and participation. What do I mean by that? It means that in order for you to become a dentist in this country, you have to fight for it. This is a hard, hard, hard journey. And of course, challenging the board exams and being internationally, and as we said, foreign trained, or again, Canadian trained or US trained, it doesn't matter. This is a tough journey with education, with schooling, with the financial obstacles to be able to get into the position of being able to be board certified in this country. It's a tough road. And yet here you are, you're finished, or you're in the process of finishing to join this very exclusive club. I'm going to say that there's a low capital investment where, businesses like Amazon or supermarkets or Canadian Tire, you need huge capital investment to be able to sell one product or one service. Here you need about $600,000 of borrowed money from one of the 5 major banks, and you're in business. So again, hard to get into as far as professionally getting licensed, easy to be able to then acquire and grow once you are in your world. Jackie had made great comments, of course, earlier over here in her presentation. We talked about the temporary elective curbing of services. There was so much fear mongering back, earlier when COVID, of course, had hit, and we've done a large lecture for a ton of dentists across North America, and I jokingly called it, "Is this the death of dentistry?" Because of course, at that time we said this is all temporary, and even though we're going through COVID right now, and fingers crossed there's a vaccine or more than one vaccine, hopefully in line in early 2021, it still hasn't slowed down dentistry. In fact, it's quite the opposite. Across the country right now, you are seeing more offices, or the majority of offices, doing record production. And it's not just patients catching back up from the temporary shutdown. It is people's appetite to do more and more everything. And as you've seen the housing market escalate, and as you over 20%, as you've seen now the escalation of food prices in 30 and 40%, if you want to buy fitness equipment or you want to do most things, lumber right now has gone through the roof. So is dental. And so is the price of a box of gloves and masks and everything else. So it was temporary, and it will continue to be temporary. Historically, there's been very low volatility in dental. There are today, at the time of this slide, 23,592 dentists across the country. As of reporting from the CDA as of last week, we're now up to 24,150 dentists nationally. There's 37,600,000 Canadians, and there's only 24,150 dentists to service them. That is an extremely, extremely low number. So again, when you start thinking about, hey, there's a dentist on every corner, I get it. In many major populaces, there are actually 2 or 3 or 4. If you go to the corner of Yonge and Eglinton right now, there are 19 dentists all within walking distance of each other. Yet in Canada, you'll need about, roughly speaking, depending on the kind of practice you have and the practitioner you want to be, you need about 15 to 1600 patients per dentist in order to have a busy week for about 5 days a week. Well, in Canada, when we break it down right now, there's 1,621 patients per practitioner today. Of course, the most saturated place to practice dentistry, where you have the most competitive market, British Columbia and specifically Vancouver at 1,385 patients per practitioner. Ontario is just right behind at 1,428. Of course, Yukon and Northwest Territories and Quebec, of course, different markets. And then you skip all the way down over here to Saskatchewan and Newfoundland, where there's over 2,600 patients per practitioner. I was mentioning to Abaz, actually, when we were chatting earlier in the week, that I met a gentleman actually at the February 22nd event. And he pulled me aside at the break, and the conversation went like this. He said, Vic, I'm willing to go anywhere. The minute I get licensed, what I'm seeking is mentorship, a lot of patience, and I know my skills. I just want to plug them in. And I don't want to be sitting around waiting for an emerge to walk through the door. I want to be busy and I want to make money. And he wasn't shy about that. He got officially board licensed as of 2 weeks ago. And on Monday, January the 4th, he is starting in Newfoundland at one of our clinics. That clinic has 15,000 active charts and one dentist working in it. The dentist that owns it works between 6 and 7 days a week and has on average 12,000 patients on a waiting list. These are his active patients on a waiting list. So this dentist that Abaz introduced me to on February 22nd is going to have a projected income in his first 12 months right now of $412,000. It will be hard for him not to make $400,000 in his first year. He'll make 45% of every dollar that he bills. We've got signing bonuses, a condo paid for. It's like basically flying in a rock star to see 12,000 people that are dying for dental. This is Canadian dentistry during COVID right now. 12,000 practice, 12,000, 24,000.
Dying for dental, that's your next project.
What's that, man?
Dying for dental is your next. After dentist,
I don't know who's busier, Vic Suta or me. Of the 24,000, 12,000 are here in Ontario and 9,600 of them are in GTA. So again, I don't want to make light of the fact that yes, there's a severe need for dental across the country, but of course the populace is right here in these two, BC and Ontario. These are of course more saturated markets, but in it you can still find phenomenal opportunity. Again, going back to some of the requests that Abaz and I talked about, I want to talk about median income because people always ask me this question, especially new grads, what can I expect to make in my first 12 months? Well, the number is 80% of new grads over the last number of years make $176,000 a year in the first 12 months. Where does that number come from? It is in a normal busy practice where you have a proper chair and 2 columns and you're running and you're covering hygiene, you're doing basic restorative. I'm not talking about all on 4s and big giant implant cases. I'm talking bread and butter dentistry. Each of you has the opportunity to bill $200 an hour. This is not difficult at all. Like $200 an hour production is, I'm going to say, very basic. You do that again for 1 day's production, $2,400 or $300 times 8 hours, $2,400. We're talking about at 40%, $1,000 a day. You work $1,000 a day. You work 5 days a week, $5,000 a week. You work 20 days a month. You have $20,000 a month. You work for 10 months out of the 12 months. You make $200,000. You have some expenses of about $24,000, $176,000 a day. That's the simple math. The gentleman that Abaz and I are talking about over here, that's just going out to Newfoundland and so forth. Again, this $412,000 comes from, again, 2 chairs, quadruple hygiene, much more coverage, and the ability to, again, do everything humanly possible. The average practice owner now in Ontario, and again, most parts of Canada, is making about $348,000 a year. And when you see average practices, they're around about $1 million. There might be 7, 8, 9, but it's about $1 million of gross, depending on how they're running from an overhead standpoint. running at about 60 to 65% overhead, left with about $350,000 of pre-tax income. So you definitely on average, way above average, will make more money.
350 is a practice net?
Practice net, correct. Grossing, and I'll get into this in a few minutes in the case study model, where grossing $1 million, let's use 65% overhead, 650,000 of overhead, $350,000 of pre-tax practice net profit. And again, doing that between hygiene and doctor restorative income, this is not a tough number to get. These are very, 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 again, average numbers. A specialist associate, so if you're a perio, pros, pedo, endo, people always ask the question, do specialists make more, and is going through 3 to 6 years of specialty training worth it financially? The answer is overwhelmingly yes. If you are inclined towards a certain specialty, instantly you'll make about double your income as an associate, and you will make more often than not double, if not triple and quadruple income as a specialist working less time. So again, those are some of the medians that we see. Again, using a very baseline number, everybody's paying 40%. You will get 45 and 50% splits in certain markets and so forth. If somebody's offering you less than 40%, you should walk away from the deal, because we have plenty of other opportunities, as Melissa Calloway and other recruiting professionals like her will be able to plug you into a whole bunch of places that will pay you more and value your time. Case study number 1. I want to talk about this because this is what happened 26 years ago. I graduated from the Ivy Business School and I got recruited by Deloitte's Consulting. It's a great job. I was broke. I said, this is fantastic. I'm just happy to not eat macaroni and have a steady paycheck. And once in a while, they're going to fly me to New York. I'm going to meet some fun people, have a nice dinner, stay in a nice hotel, and that'll be my career. My best friend was graduating from dental school at the time. This is 26 years ago. And his prof of 4 years, unfortunately, lost the depth perception in his eyes and became disabled and he was going blind. And my best friend came to me and he said, I have an opportunity to buy my professor's practice, and the asking price of the practice is $1 million. This was a big practice 26 years ago, one of the most sought after practices in that geography. And I asked my friend, I said, how much money do you have left on your student line of credit? And he said, $1,800. I want to remind you, the asking price of this practice is $1 million. He asked me how much money I had left in my line of credit in my bank account. I reminded him that I had just graduated and I had $37. So we looked at the practice financials, we got all the due diligence, and it was just an Ivy business case. I didn't know anything about dentistry or the financials of a dental practice, what hygiene, restorative, and crowns were, none of it. But we put together the business plan, did some research, talked to some people, and 5 days later, we were sitting in a major Canadian bank's office on a Friday at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and I presented the cash flow plan, the business plan, the financials, how we were going to change market, grow, and do everything we wanted to do to, again, net profit from this practice and make money, and how we want to justify this $1 million loan. And the banker at the time asked, he asked 2 questions. First of all, he said, how old are you 2 kids? Because we were in our young 20s and mid 20s. And then the second question he said, you want me to lend you $1 million? And at that time, my friend had near $200,000 of student debt, had no family support. And we had $1,837 to our name to put down as a down payment for this $1 million purchase. And at the end of an hour and a half of a meeting, this particular banker thanked us for coming in. He had to go to a barbecue that he and his wife were attending on a Friday evening, and he thanked us. And he said, thanks for putting in the due diligence and the effort. And I admire the fact that in 7 weeks, you're going to graduate as a dentist. And I admire the fact that in 7 weeks, you're going to be working at Deloitte as a consultant. And he said, before I go, I just want to let you guys know that I've decided one thing. And I've decided that I'm going to approve your loan for $1 million. So I think you guys can make a go. And we both looked at each other and we said, I can't believe you're serious. Like, you're actually going to lend us $1 million when we don't have a dime to our name right now. And you're going to allow us to buy this practice from somebody who's going blind. And he did. A year later, we went back into that same banker's office for our annual review. He asked us how the last year went, because we bought it. And we let him know the following things. In the last 12 months, we netted out $542,000 of net income. We let him know that the practice was busting with new patients. And then we asked him for one new favor. He's like, what do you need? We said, can we borrow another $800,000? He said, why? So, and it was interesting because actually, Roy Corporation had another practice listing and we bought it. And that was practice number 2. Over the ensuing years, we did practice number 3, practice number 4, practice number 5, practice number 6, practice number 7. We kept buying and building and buying and building and startups and optimization and growth. Just like Dr. Vic Suda said, you got to have rockstar accountants, lawyers, financial advisors, bankers, trusted people in your corner to hold your hand and through the steps. There's 17 steps to acquiring a practice. There's 27 steps to building a practice. You have to learn, as we will, as a boss, and I will teach you on one of these Saturdays, what those 17 steps are and what those 27 steps are, because you can't miss a step, not if you want to move towards greatness. That was 26 years ago.
You know, when you say that, something like that in front of me, you're not getting.
I know. We have some witnesses. So I get it, you guys. You have so much debt. Most of you are broke right now. You have student loans, government loans, you have car loans, you have money from family and parents' loans. You might have a mortgage. You're looking at trying to possibly buy a practice sometime in the next 2 to 5 years. You're gonna have a massive startup loan or acquisition loan. And you might even have some kids, and gosh, we know how expensive kids will get to, right? So all you see is debt and expenses. This is what your reality is right now. You're gonna see people like Jay-Z and Beyonce, and you're gonna say to yourself, what must it be like to have money where you don't think about money ever again? What do you pay down first? Should you get rid of your OSAP? How long is it gonna take you to become debt-free? The number one thing I have to keep reminding you is that the journey you've had so far to get here has been some of the hardest journey you've ever experienced. You guys know it. There's few things that are harder in life than what you are doing right now. All I can tell you is there's always going to be challenges and obstacles. COVID's a great example of a challenge and an obstacle. But your financial journey, your professional life, your personal life gets better and better and better and better as long as your mindset is focused on, again, today with a look ahead to tomorrow. I don't want to get too much into tax today because, again, I really want to get deeper inside the case study. But again, bookkeeping and record-keeping practices. Make sure you're saving all the receipts that you have. If you bought a cell phone, a laptop computer, a mouse, a printer paper, your NDB tax receipts, any tuition you had for any sort of course at any university or undergrad. Make sure you're saving all those receipts. Make sure that you've got a proper dental tax preparer and accountant, and we're happy to introduce you to a bunch of people on our team. But these are things that there's so much regret when people are like, wow, I didn't save those receipts. Start saving them, putting them in a file. Automobile. This is going to be, again, one of these big, giant expenses you're going to have in the not so distant future, especially when you start working. You're going to need, obviously, an automobile in most cases to get you around. You'll have that decision. You get a new car, a pre-owned car, lease a car, finance a car. How much of that car is business use and how much are you commuting? So again, one mistake that we often see is people go car crazy. They start getting really expensive cars and leases because, again, the minute you have your license in hand, the banks open up the taps to you guys. You really get a lot of money at your disposal. Choose to use that money wisely right now and not go crazy on too much lifestyle spend. We're not saying don't enjoy your life, but again, do things in the right way. You'll have every opportunity in this lifetime to have the home you want, the cars you want, the trips you want, anything you materially desire and lifestyle-wise desire is all attainable, everything. I talked about this earlier in the year when we talked about, the COVID-19 risk score. The American Dental Association, U.S. Department of Labor, ONET, a lot of these people were talking about COVID-19 risk. And at that time, back in February and March, they came out and said, oh, dentists and hygienists are at 92.1 and 99.7 out of 100 risk points to contract COVID. Here we are now at the end of November, and guess what the reality is? It's one of the safest places to be on the planet. You can't be in a safer, more sterile environment than actually probably a dental office. I mean, you guys understand how to use PPE. You understand protocols. You're not taking risks. So again, time and the last 8 months has proven the fact that you guys can get past these kind of points. One of the things that's going to be important, again, I'm not going to spend any time on this one today, but you need to pick up some disability insurance. At some point, we'll have a conversation about that. But all of this time, effort, and investment into your career and your future, make sure that you're insured so that if you can't ever work again or you're temporarily unable to work, an insurance company is paying you every single month. When should you get it? As soon as you're board licensed, you should be happy. I love this guy. His name's Simon Sinek. And the quote here is actually something that I hope every one of you really internalizes today, which is money is a short-term result that incentivizes short-term decision-making. Each of you is or is going to be in a very privileged place where you're a healthcare practitioner first. You have to be a business owner, and today we're talking business, and many of us speaking today are talking about the business side of dentistry. But never ever let the financial trust that you have poured on you by a patient cloud your judgment of maybe I should just bill a little bit more, find a new code in the fee guide, maximize the insurance in every possible way before December. If you do great dentistry and constantly are putting patient-centric philosophies around you, I promise you that the financial rewards follow. If I think about I'm going to say, top 5, top 10% of wealthiest dentists in this country, all of them are students of dentistry from a CE standpoint. They're a student of upping the game, of doing it better, of being great with their team, of pushing forward, and they never worried about the billings. The billings, when I say never worried, meaning look at them, pay attention to them, but don't be in a hurry just to maximize them. This is one of the best books on money. Again, I'm going to unmute there. Can you hear me again, Abbas? How about now? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. Sorry, I just saw that I got muted there for a moment.
Sorry, yeah, it was just my hand.
No problem, man. As long as you can hear me. So thanks, Senna. This is one of the best books you can ever read over there. It's not a fun read. It's a little bit of a dry read, but if you're interested in how to invest money, this is the Bible by which we all live by. It's called The Intelligent Investor by an author named Benjamin Graham. You'll have an opportunity later in life to invest in things like retirement savings plans and tax-free savings account and have corporate savings. I think Abbas had asked that question earlier to Vic Suta and saying, how else do you invest your money? And for all of you, you'll have many opportunities to, again, diversify your portfolio. But I want to be very clear about one thing. There's only 24,150 of you that have an opportunity to create some significant wealth that the rest of the 37.5 million Canadians will never have an opportunity to do. And that is owning a dental practice. And if you think about your ROI, your return on investment from dental, when you're clinically working, it's one thing. And in a few minutes here, I'm going to teach you what the opportunity is to, again, grow enterprise value and business value. And what you'll do in dental between what you produce and what you own, one or more practices, your choice, RSPs, TFSAs, real estate, condominiums, the growth of your house, anything else you will ever try and grow money in will pale in comparison to what you can do in dental. It's not even close. Let me get past this. There we go. This guy on the right over here, his name is Dr. Michael Appa. The guy on the left is Dr. Larry Rosenthal. And these are two of the most famous dentists on the planet right now. Michael Appa specifically, if you think about rock star dentist, and I've used that term a lot, over the years, you're looking at him. That's the guy on the right-hand side. 500,000 followers on social media, offices in New York, Dubai, Beverly Hills, California, private jets, Ferraris, daily production. He doesn't touch a day unless he bills at least $100,000 per day. How do you do that when you're this young, clinically smart, but it's about having the right partnerships. And that doesn't mean just clinical partnerships, it means business partnerships. Are you in a cost share? When should you incorporate? Do you want to have more than one practice and have multiple VPCs? All of these become questions that are very important in the planning process as you go forward. Again, we'll teach this when Abaz and I give you, again, a proper long session over here. But all I want you to remember about dentistry professional corporations is once you're licensed, you have the opportunity to earn $500,000 of income. And instead of paying 53% tax, you can pay 12.2% tax and save 41% on $500,000 of income every 12 months. There are huge, huge planning opportunities for you. You can earn $862,000 of tax-free income per person. Again, that's a shareholder. If your parents are living in Canada, they can be shareholders. If you are married and have a common law spouse or partner, they can be a shareholder. Your children can be shareholders. There's a lot of ways where we take dentists and we don't just get them 862, we get them $3, $4, $5 million of tax-free growth, basically, and income through using these structures that are available for you. So again, to sum up this point, when should you incorporate? Anytime you're buying a practice, you should incorporate. If your income's going over $177,000, you should definitely think about incorporating. If you have the opportunity to split income with a spouse, parents, or children, you should think about incorporating. And when you've used up all of your tuition credits, you should again think about incorporating. Huge question that gets asked of me every day. Vic, I'm married, I have 4 kids. I've been renting a 1-bedroom apartment. I've been living and eating that macaroni. I got to buy a house, man. You got to get me out of here. I need house ownership, townhouse ownership, condo ownership. I need something. And you can, again, live any way you want and money will be available. You'll get approved for major, major, major house mortgages and loans when you want them. I'm always going to stress to you that if, wherever possible, try and buy or build your practice first before you get into home ownership. If you can do it in that order, your life is infinitely better so that you become a free agent. You can move towards the geography of where you're working. If you have a practice acquisition opportunity in a different part of Ontario or a different part of Canada, fantastic. Don't be saddled with a large mortgage, especially in a situation if the housing market turns someday and your money is stuck or you've overextended yourself in debt, you're going to take away some of that flexibility. And the most important part, as we said earlier, you growing from a case study perspective, your financial journey and net worth is through practice ownership and practice associateship. It's not necessarily going to be through a home. In Canada today, I'm going to suggest to you something. I'm going to make a statement I don't have an exact statistic on it, but I'm going to suggest to you that the overwhelming number of practices in this country, we have 24,150 dentists, we have about 15,000 practices today. And overwhelmingly, practices in Canada today and practitioners today are doing a terrible job at understanding this slide. Gen X today is age 38 to 56. They're 1 in 3 people that live in this country. Millennials, Gen Y, are 24 to 37. They're representing 44% of all the YouTube consumption today. 35% Gen X, 44% Gen Y. Gen Z, age 16 to 23, represent over 50% of YouTube consumption. 50% of these people are connected to the internet 10 hours per day. 70% at least spend 2 hours per day on YouTube alone. 80% feel massive stress when they're away from their mobile device, and 92% have a digital footprint. What if I told you that right now, 80% of practices today don't pay any attention to the slide and aren't in any meaningful way connected on social media? They're not doing any branding. They don't even have a functional website, let alone Google search optimization. What's the #1 way you might find a dentist if you're not referred? Best Dentist, Mississauga, Ontario. best dentist, Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan. It's the #1 search in Google out there to acquire one. What if you as a dentist or your practice doesn't show up on that list, or at least high rank with positive reviews? How can you grow? 82% of patients consider location to be a determinant factor in choosing their dentist. They want to be on average between 10 minutes or less drive to their practice if they have no other referred warm reason to go to see a practitioner. 60% of patients don't want to change their dentist, hence the stickiness of people wanting to go back. And 34% of patients have been with the same dentist for over 10 years. But what does that mean? It means that 2 out of 3 people are new patients to the average practice over a 10-year cycle. Huge opportunities for you to acquire and grow. Dissatisfaction with the current dental team is the #1 reason for patient movement. It's not just the clinical dentistry you do today, it's how your front desk greets. It's the processes and the flow. It's what your hygienist does. It's how the assistant does what he or she does. All of it is one team collaborative approach. Again, I'm going to reference Vic Suta here on this one over here, where, somebody who has grown so immensely and done some phenomenal things here, as a mini DSO dentist in Canada, he gave kudos to his team. And it's true. You are the product of the people that you work with and support that are around you. If I told you that out of the 15,000 practices in Canada, the average practice in Canada gets 5 new patients a month. 5. Not bad, but an optimized practice will get 100 new patients a month. One of my clients every month through COVID acquired on average 700 patients per month. Every 30 days, he got another 700. He has multiple practices, but 700 a month versus 5. The people on the screen, I talk about this a lot because the value of one patient, whether you have 5 or 100 or 700, case study point, the value of that patient is $21,000. Where do I get that number? You see, if I'm the average patient right now, and some years I'm going to just go in for basic, 6 and 9 month and 12-month recalls for my hygiene. Some years I'm going to have a filling. Some years I'm going to have an implant. Some years I'm going to have some braces or clear aligners. Some years I'm going to do an onlay or an inlay, or I might do single visit, digital smile design dentistry, whatever it is. But the average spend over 20 years works out to be $1,000 a year. Over 20 years, $20,000. And Jackie's the expert on this one, but she and I will loosely say that the average value of a chart today, where 26 years ago used to be 200, today it's $1,000. If you have 2,000 patients, on average, it's about $1,000 a chart. It's a $2 million value. Again, rough. Hassan Mustafa, the guy that you see kind of up here, he owns one practice. And it's a big practice. And when COVID hit, he took all his N95 masks, all his gloves, all his gowns, and everything he had, and he went and he donated everything to the frontline workers at the hospitals. That's how he rolls. Rachel McKay is no stranger to circles over here, one of the strongest voices in how you, again, plug into social media and grow. This guy over here is one of our disruptors. His name's Dr. Hisham Shergan. Before the age of 35, Hisham right now controls over 20 practices between him and his partners. They built a brand right now that is unbelievably growing. We have 4 practices under construction during COVID. Mike Rondinelli over here, right below him, has 13 practices, and again, one of the fastest growing private guys again in the country. Ian Quick over here, this guy places more implants than most prosthodontists and periodontists in a single day. Jeff Sumner is one of the leading CERAC docs on the planet. This guy over here, who looks like he's 14 years old, this guy over here, his name's Jake Carrier. He graduated 18 months ago and has 5 practices right now and multiple associates and 1 acquisition and 4 startups. Over here, you've got, again, rock star after rock star after rock star after rock star. And this person over here, those of you who got to check out Melissa Calloway this morning, and if you didn't check hers out, you got to watch the recording. These are influencers. People like Melissa are connectors. They understand the value of how you can put relationships together, how you can grow in this marketplace and excel. This is the value of, again, being connected, and again, the value of one single patient. The question always comes a lot of the time, Vic, should I now buy a practice? Should I build a practice? And you will have lots of opportunity. I agree with Jackie. Practice values aren't going down. They are probably going up. Money is going to remain cheap for years. And there's more and more and more of you guys graduating and getting licensed and ready to go. And you want practices to buy or build. So I want to talk about, Jackie spent time talking about the buy an existing one. I want to talk to you about building one. And here's a case study I want to talk about next, which is my case study. This is me. What you're looking at on the right-hand side of your screen is a building that I bought. It's our current office right now, and you'll see on the left side, it says Jindal Financial. On the left side of the screen over here, it says Dental Line Orthodontics. My sister is a board-certified orthodontist, and she and I co-own Dental Line Orthodontics. It's one of Canada's most progressive and profitable orthodontic offices in Canadian history. We bought this building right here that you see. I can tell you I bought this building in its fairly dilapidated state over here. For at the time when I bought it, I paid $1.5 million for it. We spent another $1 million gutting it and outfitting it and ripping out the window here and the doors and this and that, whatever else. And what you see on the left is the exact same building redone. Market value of this asset now over $4.5 million. There's a vision behind when you want to do what we have here on the main floor here, Dental Line Orthodontics. We need to look at zoning. We want to be on the main floor. We wanted parking. We got lots of that. We wanted to check the traffic counts. We wanted to have visibility, and we wanted to understand the population density. If you're ever looking at buying or building a practice, there are services available here right now that you can do demographic study and analysis for $300 before you make a $3 million investment. Understand the numbers. There's a picture of the building on the left. On the right over here specifically, that's the inside of what we built in Dental Line. Very clean, very modern. Everything is all with a flow from the minute that you click our website to how we feel on social media, to how you walk through, how our staff is trained. Everything is completely systematized. If you're going to go through construction or a renovation of existing office that you bought or a new construction of something else, you got to think about leaseholds, equipment, electronics, HR compliance, management, practice flow, and again, optimization. All of these things need to be considered in, again, a case study of should I buy or build. Recommended space, again, it's different for everybody depending on what your opportunities are and where do you want to live and how do you want to grow, but about 2,000 square feet, minimum of 5 operatories. I love 7. Square shape is ideal. Again, the zoning, the parking, the frontage. And again, if you're going to build something completely from scratch, as I said, there's 27 steps and there's a 42-point checklist. We'll teach you the checklist when you tune in for a Boz and Vic part 2 over there. But there are 42 specific steps in order to execute something like this. You can build something like this, as I said earlier, for about $600,000 of borrowed money. If a Boz and I go into the bank right now, and they'll gladly give you 600, they're going to charge us 2.2%. 2% on 600,000, $12,000 of interest, $1,000 a month. If I'm associating right now, and I'm going to say I have basic associateship income, average associateship income of $16,000 a month, I need the first $1,000 to pay for my startup interest. The other $15,000 is for me to spend and go buy fancy cars and trips and handbags and whatever else I want. You just need $1,000 a month of interest at the beginning for the first 2 to 3 years in order to carry this. Anybody scared about borrowing $600,000 anymore? These are the top 5 things. This is what Abaz and I wanted to talk to you about. There's 5 things you must pay attention to more than anything else on top line. There's 100 things you must go through with a full cash flow analysis before you ever buy or build a practice. But these are the top 5. You must. Jackie actually referenced this. It was practice A, practice B. So here we are. Practice A, Dr. Bicuspid grosses $2 million per year. Practice B, Dr. Moeller grosses $750,000 a year. Let me tell you about these 2 people. They both graduated on the exact same day from the same program with the exact same opportunity, with the exact same clinical training, and they're in both the same city. One's on one side of the city, one's on the other. How does one grow 750, which is kind of an average, 750 to a million, and how's somebody doing 2 million, which is again, way above average, way above, but highly doable for one location. Staff salaries over here, $500,000 in practice A, which is 25% of every dollar bill. The largest expense you're ever going to have in dental is going to be your staff salaries, always. And pay your staff well. I know people are nickel and diming. They're like, I pay my assistant this much per hour. I pay my hygienist this much per hour. How do I get my salaries down? And I'm not saying don't look at them. It's important to do, but why don't you think about ways that you can actually give your team raises and think about increasing the top line revenue instead. But of course, 25%, which is very optimal, versus 40%, which is very unoptimal. You want these ratios to be between 22 and 28. 25 is great, 40 is terrible. Supplies. PPE costs are going up every day. We used to be able to buy a box of gloves for $4. Right now, you want to buy that same box of gloves, it's $82. I used to be able to buy plywood for, again, $6 for a sheet. Today, it's $62 for a sheet. So we have to balance these costs and so forth. But again, on average, supplies are going to be 6, 7, 7.5, 8%. Here, somebody unoptimized, 10%. Sean Piers and people and some of our speakers can talk more about how you can optimize these numbers. Rent. They both have the exact same 2,000 square foot facility, both paying $100,000 a year. This dentist over here spends zero on advertising. They don't believe in Google SEO. They don't believe in Facebook, Instagram, Google ads, Facebook ads, billboards, word of mouth, promotion, nothing. They don't have time for it and they're not interested in it. Over here, the advertising, 50,000 bucks, not big, 50,000 out of 2 million, huge opportunity to again grow, 200,000 other expenses, $2 million gross, 50% optimal overhead, $1 million left over every 12 months, $1 million bucks. I have hundreds of dentists in this country that are making minimum this and many millions more than this. And I also have clients like this that grow 750, have 90% overhead and take home $75,000. Two dentists, same town, same opportunity, two different ways of, again, optimizing. So in a case study approach, you have to have documented procedures. Everything Manisha, my sister, and I do with Dental Line is documented. It is like McDonald's, it is like Starbucks, it is like an ISO 9000. Every single step is completely and totally trained and documented. We can give you the manual for this is how you execute, but it must be trained. You have to have team training, optimization, always valuing CE, and you're creating enterprise value. You know, the organizations that Sina Amri works with as partnered in, and what Vic Sutta is doing, and what Neil Gudger is doing, and these guys all understand enterprise value in a significant way. They're living it. This is again Mike Ppe, and again tomorrow this is a shout out again to, as we wrap up this part of the presentation. This is a shout out again to Abaz, where he's going to get into with you guys on what is your brand, and Ppe has a brand. My friend Gordon Chi on the right over here has a brand. When you see photographs like this, I know these are Gord's photographs, right? So again, figure out what kind of dentist clinically you want to be, and then make sure your brand is authentic to you as you go forward. One of my favorite human beings on the planet, no stranger to this, Bill Gates, adapt to a new way of learning. We're adapting right now as we're here on Zoom instead of live. We've heard this term so much about the new normal of practicing. But again, the new normal of practicing is not a bad normal of practicing. We'll adjust with PPE and things like that. Vaccines are around the corner, fingers crossed. But the new normal of practicing is beyond this. It is, again, taking digital technology. It is taking all these advancements right now in how you can clinically deliver more dentistry faster and better than you ever could generations before. So keep investing in your skills, keep investing in these relationships. There's nothing but success financially in your journey awaiting for you as you go forward by plugging it in. In closing, I got to give a huge shout out again to the team at Side. Abaz, I know how much you bleed for all of your students and for everybody else. These are huge efforts to put events like this together. and it can't be any lesser said than Dr. Janet Sharma, who works a lot of hours to, again, babysit all of us as speakers and as part of your faculty team. So huge shout out, Janet, for all that you do. This is not easy, and kudos for, again, putting together an amazing program today. If you guys want to, again, take a screenshot of it or hit me up anytime, you can find me on Instagram. I'm always on there. I'm at Vic Jindal for those of you that are there. If any of you are on LinkedIn, you can find me at Vic Space Jindal. Check out our Dentistry Disrupted YouTube channel, where you'll have the opportunity to see presentations from people like Melissa, Rachel, Dr. Michael Rondinelli, Hassan Mustafa, on and on and on. Some of the most disruptive industry leaders and influencers in Canada are on Dentistry Disrupted, so you can hit the subscribe and like button there. And you can always, of course, email me 24/7. I'm at vic@jindalfinancial.com.
And I'll use this opportunity to just once you're done with your last slide, Vic, to launch a quick survey for just it's just going to take, it's a one question, it's going to take a couple of minutes. So I'll let you.
This is the last slide. This is it.
Yeah, so Vic, you have to answer the first question before I
Sure, which is, I gotta minimize my screen here, so let me just find that here. Bear with me.
No, first question on your slide.
Oh, that one. What do I do? This is the question I get asked every day for 26 years. Guys, think of me as basically Canada's Chief Financial Officer to dentistry. I'm your concierge to this world, or one of the concierges to Canadian dentistry. So when you need to get connected to people like Melissa and recruiters, we do that. When you need to know the difference between the 5 banks, we kind of help educate you. When you need to understand what tax looks like, banking looks like, accounting looks like. When you're looking at trying to understand, should I buy or build? Where should I do it? How do I do it? You need to pick up disability insurance. How does that work? How do I build money? Imagine having somebody in your corner that's constantly not just helping you as part of your team, but teaching you all of these steps. So my job is basically to act as an advisor exclusively to 4,157 of Canada's top dentists and constantly do that. So we are financial practice, insurance, and CFO advisors to dentists.
Perfect. And therefore, which makes this one question poll very relevant and very important.
Yeah.
Take a second to answer this one question so that we could make our relationship more meaningful to everyone. Just put in your status up there, and we're also going to run it by anyone else who registered for the event but was not able to attend. But I would appreciate if you just punch in your status so we could, make a sense of what's the best audience mix, what's the best content mix that we need to for future to create for you guys and make it more and more relevant. So I've got half of the people who have voted. We're a bunch of about 35 people. So I would appreciate everyone taking a moment to put in their position. Okay, 18 of 33 voted. I'll just give it one more minute. All right. So send that. Perfect. Thank you, Vic. I think that's a lot of insight. Yes,
you're welcome, you guys.
Enough for us to have one full day. And what I would think is to probably have that one full day sooner rather than later, because to keep the momentum going. maybe sometime in December, not too far, but I'd probably like to get it out of the way soon because these are important points. These need to be addressed, and yes, in a more detail. This was a great teaser, but now it raises more questions. So,
Always here for you guys.
um,
Big thank you again for having me today, Abaz and Jonathan, the entire site team. Amazing things that you guys are doing, and I'll be around for anybody that has any questions. You can chat me up, or again, find me on social media.
thank you. Thank you.
Take care, guys.